Dizzy Dreamer ASMR. Hello everybody, my name is Dizzy Dreamer ASMR. Welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be uncovering some hidden details and a few small theories in some of the most popular movies that were released in the 1990s. This includes The Truman Show, Forrest Gump, and Jurassic Park. So it's a triple feature this evening. These are all favorites in my household, so I'm excited to be discussing them with you today. And as I've stated in previous videos, these details and theories are not my own. I wasn't the one who originally noticed them or came up with them or anything, so full credits go to the original posters. I've compiled only a few that I found really interesting, so if you'd like a part 2, let me know. And if there's any one of these movies that you'd like for me to go more in depth with, and maybe make them into their own video, let me know as well. I might do this for The Truman Show just because there's so many hidden details that only make sense, when you watch it a second time. And last but not least, this video contains spoilers, so if you don't want spoilers, don't watch. Okay, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy. So, The Truman Show. This movie was released in 1998. It was directed by Peter Weir, and it stars Jim Carrey as the main character. So I'm going to read the synopsis first. He doesn't know it, but everything in Truman Burbank's, which is played by Jim Carrey, everything in Truman Burbank's life is part of a massive TV set. Executive producer Christof orchestrates The Truman Show, a live broadcast of Truman's every move captured by hidden cameras. Christof tries to control Truman's mind, even removing his true love, Sylvia, from the show and replacing her with Meryl. As Truman gradually discovers the truth, however, he must decide whether to act on it. This is a fantastic movie. It messes with your mind a little bit. After this movie, there was something called the Truman effect or something like that, where people actually started believing that they were being filmed as part of a TV show. So this is a very iconic movie. So the first hidden detail, if you notice something while Truman suspicious. This theory says that it's because they were intentional on behalf of a group of people that wanted him to be free. So, let me know what you think of these theories. So, Forrest Gump was released in 1994. It was directed by Robert Zemeckis. It's based on a novel of the same title written by Winston Groom, and it stars Tom Hanks as the main character, and is probably one of his most famous roles, and that's saying something because Hanks is a seasoned actor. So I'll read the synopsis really quick. Slow-witted Forrest Gump has never thought himself as disadvantaged, and thanks to a supportive mother, he leads anything but a restricted life. Whether dominating on the gridiron as a college football star, fighting in Vietnam, or captaining a shrimp boat, Forrest inspires people with his childlike optimism. But one person Forrest cares about most may be the most difficult to save: his childhood love, the sweet but troubled Jenny. So, it's been years since I watched this movie. I think it's definitely time to rewatch it, just because I forgot, researching this, I forgot how many little subplots there are. It's crazy. So, the first hidden detail is that Lieutenant Dan is wearing real dog tags. So, for those of you who don't know what a dog tag is, it's an identification tag that is worn by a soldier or other military personnel on a chain around their necks. And basically, these little metal tags are used to identify fallen or wounded soldiers. On the tag, it would have their full name and their blood type and other basic medical information. So the dog tags worn by Lieutenant Dan are real dog tags. They belong to Gary Sinise's brother-in-law. Gary Sinise his life through another person and other people. So, for example, on Reddit, the original theory poster says that him being an only child and having a low IQ would have made him illegible, or ineligible, not eligible, for the army even if there was a draft. And he only imagines himself being a great war hero. He also, just like the previous point, becomes an Olympic level ping pong player without any training whatsoever, which is wildly impossible. You can definitely have a natural talent for something, but to be a professional, it takes a lot of practice, and anyone can tell you that. When he becomes a shrimp boat captain, it's the only boat that doesn't get destroyed in the hurricane. So this theory is basically saying that Forrest Gump is a very unreliable narrator, and that he's actually telling the story from the point of view as a guardian angel watching over the child played by Haley Joel Osment, which, extra fun fact about this, is his first movie role, and he would go on to star in The Sixth Sense alongside Bruce Willis and Toni Collette. I'm a big fan of hers, and Donnie Wahlberg. So, interesting theory, but I don't buy it. So let's move on to our last movie. So Jurassic Park was released in theaters in 1993. It was directed by Steven Spielberg, and it stars Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, B.D. Wong, and Richard Attenborough, and also other celebrities like Wayne Knight, Bob Peck, and Samuel L. Jackson. So I'll read the synopsis. In Steven Spielberg's massive blockbuster, paleontologists Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler and mathematician Ian Malcolm are among a select group chosen to tour an island theme park populated by dinosaurs created from prehistoric DNA. While the park's mastermind, billionaire John Hammond, assures everyone that the facility is safe, they find out otherwise when various ferocious predators break free and go on the hunt. For those of you who don't know, this movie has a flip ton of sequels, including The Lost World, Jurassic Park from 1997, Jurassic Park 3 from 2001, Jurassic World, which was the reboot in 2015, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, things.